All right, let's see. For those of you that are here early, you see this? You see this right here? Now, I have, I've shown you this the other day, but I was telling my roommate that when we go to the store, if I see this sitting in a shopping cart and you hear somebody yell "run," it's me, and you better run because that's mine. You see the leaf on its head. I was like, holy moly, it's calling my name. Anyways, where were we? Welcome to your September 11th, 2022 episode of Mox News. I'm your host, Moxie, and thanks so much for tuning in, my little ninjas. It's always better when you're here. So, what we're doing is I have videos about 9/11. I have a video about the police being demoralized after 9/11, and the truth is that the police and the firefighters were both demoralized after 9/11, and I hope to talk about that at least a little bit. And I'm going to have a bong hit for every right that we have lost since September 11th. Wait, how many rights are there? There's a lot of fucking bong hits, dude. Oof. Let's see. I do have a video about firemen, or an interview with the firemen. I believe that was there on September 11th, if there's any of them still alive. Because that's the kind of support that we give the police and the firefighters in this country. Like, when we were demanding that they take vaccines, there's a police shortage, there's crime everywhere, and the police are so demoralized. I bet no one can guess who this is. Hello, caller.
Hey, Fox, this is Benny.
Hey, Manny.
So it seems to me like people, they totally forgot about it.
They don't want to hear about it anymore. Everything about it is a lie. Everything about it is a lie, Manny. So they don't like being lied to over and over and over again.
You know what it is, Max? And I think it's more simpler than that. It's been 20 years.
No,
There are
that's not it.
generations of people.
Dude, that's like saying they don't remember World War II or something. Okay? We're still in the middle of a world war that was caused by this event. And if you don't think we are, you're not paying attention, man.
No. Okay, that's a good point. That's a fair point. The reason why people still remember World War II and the atrocities of the Nazi regime is because, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to get misinterpreted. I just want to be the way I see things. It's because the Jewish community has done a very good job of remembering.
Okay, you're talking about World War II now, right? World War II. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's World War II. I want to repeat that here. The Jewish community and whoever won the war have made a very good job of making sure that people don't forget. Because they know that kind of mentality and that kind of rhetoric that the Nazi Germany did will come back. It's very, very easy to blame the other for whatever failures you have. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of populist movements have flourished, because of that victim mentality. And that's why the whole World War II, the Holocaust Museum and stuff is still open though, because the Jewish community has done a very good job of keeping that remembrance alive.
Mm-hmm. Are you talking about the 9/11? Go ahead.
No. And there's no reason why I'm trying to make those two comparisons, because remember, 9/11, who died in 9/11 actually? Like, if you actually look at the victims for the 9/11, I mean, the World Trade Center was full of hedge funds, investment bankers, restaurant workers, because remember, there's catering service in the buildings. If you walk in an actual building, you see like there's restaurants and there's like...
Yeah, the FEC, the SEC, they had...
Yeah, the Port Authority was there.
Yeah.
A lot of actual jobs. So in this DNA, you look at it, those kind of people are not looked at a very favorable way. People don't, in fact, ever since 2008, people don't see them as heroes, they see them as the enemies. So there's
I
no
don't-
sympathy against the victims of the 9/11, though, because, I mean, the only
That's
victims
not Manny. Look, okay, I get it. There was some fucking nasty people who worked in those buildings. Like I said, the FEC, the SEC, the people who lead those organizations are very nasty people. I will bet you that they were not there on that day. Now, that being said, uh, there was a lot of secretaries and janitors, and in fact, I met one of the janitors who was supposed to have been the last man out of the Twin Towers. Had an interview with him. He's a very interesting guy.
Yeah, yeah. And again, those are the primary victims. And the secondary victims were like the victims who were in the place, who have to inhale all that dust, or they have to go and,
Yeah.
like the firefighters that have to go and they probably survive, but I mean, they're dealing with the consequences and dying of cancer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
man, I mean,
including
but,
so many people that suffer from post-traumatic stress from that suffer massive depression from that. Is that can see that the world completely changed from this event, and it became much more violent.
Yeah. It's, I mean, I was 14 when I saw the whole thing live on like 6 in the morning because I was living in Mexico, which is Mexicali, Baja.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the same time as LA. It's probably around 5, like around 6 in the morning is when I started looking at the whole thing live. And imagine, like, everyone was so confused, everyone like, what the hell is going on? Like, I truly believe it was an accident, though. And I don't know why they started dating this guy as Osama bin Laden a few hours later. But that was a different story, though. I did see the jumpers live, or at least recorded of the jumpers, because, for example, if you watch Hispanic media in the U.S., there was this network, Univision, which at the time they used to have they have a very sensational newscast. They used to have the actual jumpers on broadcast television. Like, you can put a rabbit ears, and if you look at the Univision channel, they were showing the actual jumpers live, which now it's extremely tacky and extremely sensitive to do that. But at the time, they were doing that. So I saw the whole thing, like people jumping, like what the hell? Like I was a 14-year-old boy, like whoa, holy shit, whoa. I wasn't like scared, but I was more like impressed, scared, like whoa. You know what teenagers are, right?
To what?
At the time, I didn't understand the consequences, and like how big of a deal was this, though. And now that I'm a 35-year-old adult, I can see like, holy shit, that was bad. Like, it really changed our culture.
Yeah, it
Right.
changed everything, Manny. And it's beyond belief that it just is getting worse and worse. It's not like somehow, the police state went, okay, we're safe now, or we did our job and we protected people. It's just they've made people feel less and less and less safe from that day. And that's our government, that's our police state, and it's disgusting.
I guess what all the complicated things was, I think the whole Iraq-Afghanistan war was just the U.S. government trying to save days. Because if you actually analyze history, though, this whole thing has been going since the 80s. Like, we literally supported Osama bin Laden, and we actually thought he was the actual Mujahideen, he was a hero trying to liberate the Afghan people against the Soviet troops in Afghanistan back in the 80s. And then he's turning the United States against us. Like, what happened?
Osama bin Laden, right, was trained by the CIA in the 80s.
Yeah, no, legit.
Yeah. And
I do question what really happened in the 90s that he makes Osama bin Laden turn against us. Like, legit question.
Hey, got another caller, Manny. Good to hear from you, okay?
Right, man, take it easy.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Hello, caller. Hello? Are you there? Hello? Are you there, caller? Hello? Caller. Hello.
Hey.
Oh.
Hey.
Hey.
What's up? Hi. How do you feel about the September 11th attack?
I think it changed the world for the worse, and that it's never recovered.
It's never gonna come. What do you feel about niggers? Like black people?
Well, there's lots of different feelings about black people, people of color. Personally, as I've said many times, I think you have to take every person as they come. You can't just like judge a person by the color of their skin. Because it's really inconsequential. It just couldn't matter less. I think that what I've found is that not everybody's good, not everybody's bad, and that if you keep a smile on your face, you're doing a good job. You're far ahead of the game because there ain't that many people out there keeping a smile on their face. And speaking of which, I have a video about the 9/11 memorial in New York. Right, the service today where they name all the people and ring the bell. I have a video of that before the memorial, the event actually starts, of Kamala Harris and Chuck Schumer and Bloomberg and a couple other senators and Congress people. And they're all chatting and they got big smiles on their faces. I didn't actually see anybody laugh, but I'm sure at one point, Kamala Harris cackled. Just like Hillary. So I'm sure at one point, but I didn't want to record it for 20 minutes. I didn't want to play 20 minutes of it for you, but I was amazed at this, at the way that these people are just, smiling away. Like it's such a good day. Today is such a good day. I remember this day well. And how much power I got from it. So I have that video to go. And as I was saying, I am going to play the video about the 9/11 museum at Ground Zero being closed down, because that is really disturbing. I mean, it's whole never forget. They're closing the museum at Ground Zero. Never forget. Those two things make any sense to you? The whole 9/11 thing doesn't make any sense from start to finish. And, of the videos that I have watching the news, I didn't see the Jersey wives who were fighting for the truth. I didn't see them. I didn't see anybody talking about, well, we'll get to that. Hello, caller.
Hey, happy 9/11 day, Michael.
Woohoo!
I got I bought a special cake shaped like two towers.
Mine's shaped like the Pentagon.
Yeah, it's got a plane sticking out of it. And
mine's got a missile sticking out of it.
It's got like whipped cream pouring out the side, orange whipped cream like molten.
You are disgusting. I'm about to hang up on you.
It's like molten metal coming out of the side. Little squibs. I even made little squibs. It took me all night to make the cake. So, two cakes actually. That Ground Zero, baby. But you're on early, dude. I guess that's the way you do it on 9/11 day, right?
Sunday. Oh, fuck 9/11 day.
I bet they're having a 9/11 block party in your neighborhood, huh? Everybody's celebrating.
I don't know. It's so smoky here. Last night, the news lady said Seattle has the worst quality air right now of any city in the world. So.
What about the ocean breeze and the airflow? Don't you guys get rid of that?
It's changing. The The wind is changing today, so later this evening, it should all change. A lot of the smoke will be blown out.
Yeah, well, valleys tend to be the ones that keep their smog in the valley, and ocean towns tend to, the ocean breeze tends to blow it away.
Also, I have a video from the Israeli news, and you will be most interested to know that they did not mention the dancing Israelis. I was surprised.
Well, I did see last night, I think I subscribed to, I think it was I-24, but it might have been some other Israeli channel, that Benjamin Netanyahu was definitely on saying something, but I didn't. I figured it would be in Hebrew because he was addressing Israelis, and I figured it might have some connection to 9/11. But that wouldn't really be so strange if Netanyahu was saying something about 9/11, like it, as if it had something to do with Israel. We all know it didn't. But yeah, well, what does Netanyahu say, or what do the Israelis say?
Man, just the standard propaganda.
Yeah, well, everything comes out of there. They killed another journalist, I think 2-3 days ago. I saw the video of that. Just fucking brutalized him, and he was a journalist. He wasn't doing anything, and yeah. I don't know, so I've been brushing up on my 9/11 stuff. I watched like 4 videos this morning. I got the day off this Sunday, and yeah, there's a lot to revisit it, and I don't think anybody, not me, not you, not anybody else, wants to fucking go into every goddamn detail about 9/11. But
No, what I want is the architects for truth to go into details. I want people who know, who understand, who are smart to go into detail and explain it to the whole world so that we can all understand this is not possible. What they're saying happened is not possible.
that's what I was watching, was a Canadian presentation of AE 9/11 Architects for Truth, Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. And Richard Gage, even though he got kicked out of that group for saying something about somebody, I don't know, last 2 years ago he got kicked out of AE 9/11 as the leader because he was politically incorrect on something. He's still the authority on all that stuff. He's got a brilliant mind, and but we really got to go back to PNAC, Project for New American Century, which was written by
John Bolton.
well, actually Kagan, who is Victoria Nuland's husband. These are Zionists. Let's see, Robert Kagan and William Crystal. They call him Billy Crystal, William Crystal.
Yeah.
They're the ones who wrote it.
Where'd that fuckwad go?
Yeah, they're both heavy Zionists. And everyone involved in 9/11 was a heavy Zionist, and most of the people involved in Washington, D.C. are Zionists. But the past, there's a lot to know about that. 1997, it was written. 2001, the buildings came down. Everybody, in 2006, they changed the name of PNAC to, I don't know, some other group,
Right.
But the passage in that extensive document, it's not like a 3-page thing, it's more like a couple hundred pages, PNAC, is change is likely to be a long-run absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor. That was written in 1997. They're talking about full spectrum dominance, the American century, bringing democracy to the world, and America's interests, and blah blah blah, American hegemony.
And what was another majorly disputed election in which clearly, you know, the outcome that the project for the new American century got what they wanted.
Yeah, but even if Gore had won, I think he would have just gone along with whatever the. Let's say Gore won and the 9/11 thing happened the way that it happened. He would have just gone along with the war also.
Well, what about the anthrax poisoning that took place
Well, that's
2 weeks
very,
after?
Very,
Yeah, go ahead.
very, very interesting detail that nobody really brings up much, but
I'm nobody.
but we all know that anthrax is a
Military
manipulated-
weapon.
Yeah, it's a military weapon that can be traced back to certain laboratories,
Right.
and it was.
And it was
So-
because it was traced back to a military laboratory, which is impossible to get in and out of.
Right. Yeah.
Once again.
So it's divide and conquer, fear, fear, fear.
Right. That's another thing we need to understand. This division that we have now is 9/11 is completely responsible, and that was a big part of the plan.
It ushered in the military comply or die state, and since then, 21 years later, we got MRAPs in the streets of most American cities. We got all this military hardware they just give to police departments. You got to take your shoes off to get on a plane because some fake fucking guy tried to light his shoe on fire somewhere, and it's just like, you know, and they're tracking everybody. So
And now you got to show your papers. You got to make sure you're vaccinated and all the
Right.
bullshit.
And little by little,
And all these people, every step of the way, made massive amounts of money. All these political figures, all these people that you'll see in my news clips tonight, including the reporters, they all owe pretty much their entire fortune and career at this point to the events of September 11th, 2001.
Well, one interesting thing about one of the authors of the Project for the New American Century, Robert Kagan, is that he's married to Victoria Nuland, who was responsible for the overthrow of the Maidan Revolution and what's going on in Ukraine right now. He's married to the girl that put the CIA snipers on the roofs in 2014. So, and she intentionally, and she was caught on tape talking about overthrowing the elected leader of Ukraine. So, if you think that the Zionists are just concentrated on, let's say, New York or Iraq or America, no, it's a global thing. And,
I know. I'm not saying that. I mean, look at what's happening. The United States is expanding everywhere, and it's not slowing down, which is like basically the worst thing we could be doing. We want to partner with these people, and we're not partnering with anybody. We're going in and saying, we're the dominant force in the world. Are you with us or against us?
Exactly. The new American century, which seems to be slowing down a bit because Russia and China are fighting back.
Russia's gonna pwn the United States in 10 years, man. It's they're actually building a new infrastructure, and besides that, they're doing exactly what I just said. Is they're building relationships with countries around the world with their Belt and Road Initiative, which is fucking brilliant. And they invited the United States to be part of it, and the United States told them to fuck off.
Yeah, I don't have any details on when they invited the U.S. to be part of it, but I don't doubt what you're saying. You notice that what was it, 2002, 2003,
Tweet?
the Bush administration was pushing to go to war, pushing to go to war, pushing to go to war. fabricating information or evidence. Yellow cake from Africa, anthrax, Colin Powell holding up the anthrax. The whole show. You'll notice that the Democrats voted along with the Republicans to go to war. That tells you a lot. It tells you, if you're in Congress or the Senate, you're really not too bright. You're just going to go with the flow. It also tells you the PSYOP works. And then all the people who were smart enough to uncover all of the details, like Richard Gage, architects and engineers 9/11, all these people, Christopher Bolin, all these beautiful, beautiful people, they get hammered, and they're just telling the truth. And I would have to include Alex Jones in that. But Alex Jones, of course, is a little bit like Donald Trump. He's halfway idiotic. So, but he's right on a lot of stuff. He was right. So
at least he gave us a different perspective than this everyday propaganda that it's impossible to get away from. They're like, oh, they're not teaching the kids enough in school. The 9/11. Did you see the video about them closing the 9/11 Memorial Museum and at Ground Zero?
Yeah, because nobody would show up.
and what? So we're never forget, but nobody shows up. So if nobody shows up, what? That's expensive real estate, and we could probably make a lot of money off of it. Is that what it is? Is that what's more important than never forget? At Ground Zero? You tell me.
I thought it's interesting to know that. I just saw that video 15 minutes ago.
The one I posted?
Yeah, the one you posted. That's how I came here, because I was going to wait till 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock and see if you were on, but I found out you were on right now, so I switched over to you. It's not surprising. Who wants to go to a 9/11 museum and hear a bunch of fake facts? They're not real facts, they're fake facts. And it was Osama bin Laden, and it was all those bad people in the Middle East, and it was the Palestinians. They're your enemy, not us. And, some guy in a cave. Yeah, it's really ridiculous. You had, I think, 23, what do they call them? Test runs going, simulations going that day on 9/11
Right. They had simulations going of exactly the same type of an event. Large passenger planes being hijacked and flown into important structures. And what happened was people that were supposed to be defending us, NORAD, they were like, oh, well, this is the drills that we're supposed to be, taking part in, because that's what they were led to believe. What kind of coincidence is that, right? These people who've never flown 747s or any fucking plane ever get inside one of the most complicated machines in the world, make it work flawlessly beyond what pretty much any other pilot in the world could do.
Right. Yeah.
And they were running an exercise, the military, that just happened to be the same scenario. What are the chances?
23 different simulations going on that day, and that's enough to confuse anybody. They couldn't tell the test radar, the fake radar from the real radar. And it's not the only terrorist event that where the drill went live, as they say. The drill went live. And they do that to confuse the response and also to muddy the waters afterwards. The waters stayed so muddy for so long, and they're still muddy, and unbelievably, there's still plenty of people who think that I'm a conspiracy theorist, you're a conspiracy theorist, Chris Bolin is
I don't give a fuck what people think. Jesus Christ.
Well, my point is they're as dumb as a bag of rocks.
Look, people have been misled. All right, so you think that you fight through it and that you find something, but if you are, like everybody, look at the way people responded to the COVID. right? If you didn't do it, then you were the problem. And we're not talking about anonymous strangers. We're talking about roommates and shit like that. You know, if you didn't get vaccinated, you're the problem. So
Right.
on 9/11, you know, if you're not on board with our country, you're the problem. You're the enemy. And you know what? Our government made that really clear, so people got that locked into their brains. So, you know, again, I'm cutting people slack, but I think it's just best to do that because it's this whole, like I said, I have massive amounts of empathy for people, you know? I hope that something happens that makes that light bulb click on. That's all.
Well, it's going to have to be the military police at their door before they wake up. That's the way people are. And most activists like myself have grown very apathetic to try to convince as many people as possible, and let's get this collective wave going, and if once we get a certain amount of people, then the public opinion will tip, and it's like 21 years later, dude, and there's still people think there was a magic bullet in Daly Square in 1963 that injured, that caused 7 injuries, a magic bullet that's going around and around making right turns and left turns. No, man, some people are never going to wake up, so I call them dumb, but I'll fight for their freedom. But it's just me. I'll call them dumb. I'm sorry, but you can't trust your government. That's the bottom line.
Well, you would think that would be have the basics. You got to start at that basic level. Obviously, our government is not on the side of the working class. If you don't know that, you need to catch up, man.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even begun to see the migration from the middle class to the poor, the lower classes yet. The homelessness hasn't really hit, even though it's off the hook. The bankruptcies haven't really hit yet. Anybody with any sense is scrambling around trying to make as much money as they can so that they don't end up losing what little they got. That's all from COVID. The response to COVID was worse, far worse, 100 times worse than the COVID itself, and we all know that. And let's just remind everybody, coronavirus equals the flu. It's a flu. So, and we couldn't say that.
Yeah, but it was coronavirus times never 9/11, dude.
Yeah, and they're connected. 9/11 is connected.
I agree.
To coronavirus.
I agree.
So, I thank guys like you. You got programs. You're bringing out the truth. Today's a very auspicious day to try to revisit the truth that a lot of people know, and most people are concerned with, you know, their jobs and fixing their cars and feeding their kids and blah blah. You know,
Watching their soap operas.
staying sane. You know, it's probably pretty damn.
Good luck with that.
Insane.
Good luck with that. You know how I feel about that. Those that one is long gone, dude. There is no sanity in this planet. At least, you know, in our country. I don't know about the rest of the world, but everybody in this country is suffering a severe PTSD.
Yeah. I don't know, man. For some reason, despite my, I think my sense of humor keeps me pretty fucking sane. And I got a wicked sense of humor. I did not have sex with that monkey, Mike.
Well, that's none of my business, dude, so I couldn't care less, so you know. You can have sex with all the monkeys you want. Hell, you can go and find dead monkeys on the side of the road and have sex with them, and I couldn't care less.
And the January 6th thing, and all the trials and the inquisitions and all, you know, the Trump Mar-a-Lago raid, that's connected to the same governmental overreach and the corruption as 9/11, as the Vietnam War, as COVID-19, as the, you know, it's like, you guys are not going to get to the truth. We will institute military law. If you guys ever come close to the truth, we'll just shut you down with the police on the street.
And like, so that clip that I keep showing of Donald Trump saying, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11. His hotel, his place was raided shortly after that, right? So maybe those documents that he had might have had something to do with 9/11. Anybody?
Nah, I bet you there was absolutely nothing of any importance there.
Well,
And
something's going on, and it happened right after he said that, and maybe they want him to shut the fuck up about 9/11. I don't know, but there's something going on with that. And I'm just bringing it up because, today and everything, but I find it interesting.
well, if Donald Trump was anything close to a fucking hero, he would
I didn't say that.
yeah, he would have mentioned 9/11 when he got into office. But instead,
Yes, when he had the ability to fucking actually do something about it, instead of just talking about the fact that no one's gotten to the bottom of it. Well, gee, too bad we don't have someone in political office who's interested in getting to the bottom of it. That might make a big difference, don't you think?
yeah, I remember
Everything.
He
Go ahead.
was interviewed on the day of 9/11, 21 years ago, and he said it looked just like a demolition. It looked just like buildings being exploded. He said that live on the air, giving his dumb little opinion, which was correct. But he didn't do anything about it. It's 21 years later. He's never done a goddamn thing about it.
Right.
So I'm not.
And nobody has been in a better position to do something about it than Donald Trump.
Right. Even Cynthia McKinney, she spoke up and she got removed from office one way or the other. She was removed from office.
Right.
She's still speaking up, as far as I know. But to me, the number one thing, the most obvious thing, besides eyewitnesses of explosions and rivers of molten lava, is the fact that the NIST report said those buildings, all three buildings, collapsed due to office fires. And you had
I'm sorry, it's not funny. Go ahead.
molten metal under the ground for 3 months, 12 weeks, still being dug up, despite the fact that they had water hoses on that pile the whole time for 3 months, and they were still digging up molten metal, which is 4,500 degrees molten metal. So where did that heat come from? So that tells you right there was just giant amounts of thermate used to bring those buildings down, and the thermate doesn't cool off, So, and then you have all of the injured rescue workers, the people that got cancers, and the firefighters that got cancers, and the police officers that got cancers, and you have this pyroclastic cloud over New York for days and days and days, and to me, the molten metal under the ground for 12 weeks is a very obvious symptom of controlled demolition. And there's other ones who, like, all you got to do is look at the fucking video, and especially in slow motion, and you can see the buildings being exploded right in front of you. It's pretty obvious. But they try to muddy the waters any way they can, with space weapons and, the space weapons and Osama bin Laden. Those are like, it's just, it's a crime. It's the biggest crime committed on American soil that I can think of. I'll just leave Pearl Harbor out of it, but yeah, it's a crime that should have been investigated, never really was investigated, and the COVID-19 thing is just a follow-up. 20 years later, you got a follow-up. This one wasn't controlled demolition. It was a manufactured biological weapon. This latest one,
Which is very similar to a controlled demolition.
Yeah, it's controlled demolition of the economy for sure. I think 3.9 trillion was made by the 1%, the ultra rich, and 3.6 trillion was sucked out of the middle class, out of the American taxpayer, and it's not over yet.
No,
So,
it's not.
So I just try to keep sane, knowing that I'm living in some kind of weird psycho time warp planet where somebody, I don't know, space lizards blow up buildings.
Yeah, that sounds sane.
Well, and they're fighting each other for the rest of our lives. No, I'm right. No, you're wrong.
No, not you're wrong. You're stupid. You're dumb. Those are the words from your mouth. Go ahead.
Are you making fun of me, Mike?
Nope.
No. So, yeah, man. I stopped investigating 9/11 a long time ago, but it's good to go back. I watched about 4 or 5 videos with Richard Gage, and one of the surprising things that I was reminded of today was these are older guys, scientists, really respected people, very, very smart people that you would look at and you would say, that's a 9/11 truther. And yeah, those 9/11 truthers are not like young guys addicted to the internet. There's a lot of really smart people that the evidence is overwhelming, and they're just trying to do the right thing. And I hope we don't give up. I mean, we can't forget 9/11. We can't forget COVID-19. So let's not let this shit happen. I don't know what to do except shut everything down, people. That's the only thing I can say. Shut everything down and try to stay sane and take care of each other. And stop fighting the gay people and the black people and the Republicans and the Democrats. Stop fighting each other, you know. And
Recognize the real enemy here.
And stop giving money to Ukraine, you know.
Well, that's not up to us, really.
So that's all I got, dude.
Well,
I saw your clip, and it was a little bit boring, but it's interesting, you know. What is it, like 3, 4, or 5 minutes on the fact that the fucking museum closed, you know?
it's like 2.5 minutes.
Okay, well, thank God for that. But it's interesting. I'm glad nobody has any interest in a 9/11 museum, and I hope they put a big giant Chuck E. Cheese in there or something. You know, put a 7-Eleven in that building, or you know, maybe make it a nudie bar. That'd be better. Make a nudie bar where the 9/11 museum was. You know, you can call it 9/11 nude, 911 nude chicks.
They should make it an adult toy store, and then people can go in and get toys shaped like the Twin Towers, and they can fuck themselves with it. All right, it's nice to hear from you.
Okay, man. I'll catch you later.
See ya.
Take care.
Okay, so again, if anybody wants to call, the number's up there on the screen, 805-669-6397. I have a fuck ton of videos, so I'm going to go ahead and play one. I play this one. This one has Laura Trump in it, and they're talking about how demoralized the police are, which is something we were talking about last week about the how Joe Biden fits into the NWO plan, the New World Order, the Project for a New American Centuries plan, by making it look like the Democrats are soft on crime while they keep funneling more and more money to prove that they're not soft on crime. And then the other side comes in, the people who love the police, and they ramp it up because obviously the Democrats didn't do anything about it. But the strange thing is, the more money that you throw at the police, the more crimes there seems to be. You ever notice that? Yeah. So this video is about demoralizing the police after 9/11. Well, not right after 9/11 now, but they talk about 9/11, and the thing is that the police, the fire department, the rescue people who worked at Ground Zero after 9/11 2001, a lot of them got really, really sick. A lot of them, a huge percentage of them. And it was because of the dust that they were breathing. And they were told again and again that it's safe to breathe the air. Again and again they were told this. And then they got these horrible illnesses, just like this. Like I said, this huge percentage of firefighters, rescue people, police, they got this horrible illnesses. And the government that loves them so much, right? The Republican government at the time, George Bush, Dick Cheney, they refused to give support to these people, firefighters, police officers, rescue workers, who were saying, hey, we're having this horrible illness because of 9/11. They refused to acknowledge that it was a real thing and that it was caused by the events of September 11th, by working in this area around the Twin Towers. And when you talk about demoralizing the police and how that's what the Democrats are doing by calling for defunding the police, well, and then the Democrats go, we're not defunding the police, we're giving them as much money as we can. But what I'm saying is, when the Republicans were in charge and this horrible event happened and there was horrible repercussions from it, the Republicans didn't give a fuck. And those demoralized, sick police officers and firefighters, rescue workers, they had to fight. They were sick. They were dying. Some of them fought until the day they died to get the government to listen to them. If you want to talk about demoralizing the police, there you go. That's our government in a nutshell. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. Where's demoralizing the police? Right there. Clip number 3. I'll be right back. I'm going to go heat up my tea. Thanks so much for tuning in. You guys are the greatest.
Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have.
Welcome back to the Big Sunday Show, a day we remember the importance of law enforcement. 21 years after the September 11th attacks, the left seems to be learning a lesson about their defund the police push. Now many cities are hiring police because of the spike in crime, and one New York City neighborhood is even hiring private security to keep their streets safe. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy calling out the left's defund push and keeping the country safe earlier on Sunday Morning Futures.
You know what's happening on that border. You know people on the terrorist watch list. Here we are 21 years away after 9/11. They're coming across this border from Yemen and others. Why are they coming to America, and what do they have planned? We watch fentanyl now become the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. That's directly coming the chemicals from China and funding the cartels inside Mexico. We're not safe to walk out anymore because the Democratic policies actually caused the problem. Defunding of the police, not prosecuting, this no bail program. Well, we want a new direction.
Sean, I want to go right to that. When we talk about defund the police, a part of that I think really connects us together is just the way I explain it is it's not just about the money. It was about the narrative. It was about sowing division and hate among communities and those that police them. Nowhere more importantly than the border. I mean, think about how they demonize the Border Patrol.
Yeah, I think it foments chaos. And when you have chaos, you can remake things. And they want to remake this country from what it was into something very, very different. And when they want to do that, Joey, I always think, well, give us an example of what you want America to look like. And I would say, well, California, LA, San Francisco, Chicago, New York City, New York State. And I'm like, I don't want to live in that kind of country. And again, I mean, the character and the call to service of the men and women who ran into the buildings on 9/11 is the same character that men and women who serve today in law enforcement have. And to demonize them is outrageous. And just one last point, the fact that we have communities buying private security to keep them safe. I mean, this is third world country-esque that we have to have. If you're rich, you get security. If you're part of the squad, you get security. But if you're an average Joe American, you can't have security or law enforcement on your streets. I mean, again, it's outrageous.
And by the way, that's in Greenwich Village in New York City. And apparently things were so out of control, they hired the guards to stop chronic drug dealing, crack smoking, and public defecation right here in America in New York City. That's terrible.
Laura, moving on to you. I mean, you know the juxtaposition. Florida, New York.
Yes.
Right? Two states that are historically inhabited by very patriotic people. People that don't want to see this.
Yeah.
Yet one state, New York, elects some politicians and over a couple of decades sees it goes to ruin.
Well, and it's the reason so many people have left New York. It's the reason New York and California have lost congressional seats. Florida and Texas have gained congressional seats because people, Sean, to your point, they don't want to live like this. How do you exist when you don't feel safe, when you don't feel like you can take your kids out in the neighborhood? And I feel like we're sort of at the I told you so portion of things now with the Democrats. They had the big defund the police push, and we all said, well, we know what's going to happen with this. This is a recipe for disaster. Crime goes through the roof, right? People don't feel safe. All of a sudden, you realize you can't function in a society without law enforcement. So now they're trying to refund the police in all of these places across America. It's so obvious when it doesn't work and where it's not working. And it is working in states, Joey, to your point, like Florida, which is why I live there.
You know, Alicia, we talk about Democratic politicians maybe having some buyer's remorse on this messaging of defund the police, but I don't think you can spend money your way out of this problem because places, I can't remember where, I was hosting Fox and Friends a few weeks ago, places are trying to hire police officers. They can't find anybody to hire, even with more money.
And this is a problem all across the country, and it doesn't matter if you're in a red state or a blue state. They're having problems all over because of the way so many members of the community have seen the way police officers have been treated in other cities and in their community. They feel like it's not a good bet for them. But I will add that there are Democratic strategists and there are Democrats out there who were pulling their hair out when they were hearing the defund the police mantra. What Republicans have managed to do is attach it to all Democrats and are using it as they head into November as well. It has become part of the strategy. So there are Democrats out there who think this is a terrible idea, and they are seeing the repercussions from this happening. In Denver alone, I can tell you.
Whoops. I clicked that a second before I wanted to. There are Democrats. They're saying they started off the conversation by saying, you know, there's Democrats were, I guess the Democrats are starting to learn their lesson about defund the police. And this is what I'm telling you is right now the Democrats are going to fund every funnel every penny to the police they possibly can, right? And the Republicans are just going to pound this in, which is the Democrats are soft on crime, the Democrats are demoralizing the police. Again, after 9/11, the police got really sick, and the government would not listen to them. For years and years and years. Lots of them died. Okay, so if you want to talk about demoralizing the police, it seems to be, plenty of it to go around. And when they talk about demoralizing the police right now, what this brings to mind for me is that, oh no, they're starting to hold us accountable. We can't get away with everything like we used to be able to do. Hello, caller.
What up, Mom?
Hey, B.
That man. Anyway, I just I was listening to that I guess that skit you played, or whatever they call them things on the news.
Yeah.
They're all skits, right? But you know what? They was bringing up some good points, but what they don't ever really discuss, and I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, okay, good. It's good. It's good.
It's people from up north, when they retire and they get those big pensions from those cities, they move to Florida. Okay? And maybe when they're talking about how come nobody wants to be a police officer because of how people treat cops, maybe nobody wants to be a cop because every time they had an interaction with police when they was growing up, it wasn't good for one of their family members. So it's kind of like when being in the military, like I was, when you try to recruit soldiers, you don't never show like you're a soldier 24/7. They teach you don't disrespect the military, don't get in trouble, blah 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 blah. So you hardly ever hear about the military dudes being off duty, fucking up, doing anything more than getting a DUI. But you never hear nothing catastrophic about it.
Yeah.
Because you need that good, hey, this is something good. Everybody, granddaddy at one point was in the military, right?
So,
Yeah, well,
so it's a real easy recruitment tool, but when everything is negative from every angle of law enforcement and their reaction with citizens, who would want to fucking work for an organization that has to go knock on doors to stop men from beating their wife's ass, right?
And everybody looks at you like you're this bad person. So like cops are bad.
Exactly.
So if cops are bad, why would you want to be one of them?
Yeah, and then, now listen, go back to what I said. Every interaction that someone ever had with police was bad. So imagine you're that 8-year-old kid that your daddy just keeps beating your mom's ass, and the cops is always showing up, beating him up, and taking him to jail.
Yeah.
Two wrongs don't make a right. But
Yeah.
if you thinking that kid's gonna go and want to be a police officer, fuck no. Yeah. Technically, he's gonna grow up and beat women. You know what I'm saying?
It's entirely possible.
But it's a very complicated, and then, everyone is seeing from the old way of being a police officer starting to catch up with people. It's kind of like the Me Too movement on cops, where all this shit starting to come out about cops back in the day, where, there's a case in Louisiana where a guy was murdered on the side of the road. And the cop committed suicide a few years later, and the case is pending. And it's like the police buried it.
Yeah.
And that was starting to come out, right? So a lot of people are seeing this, and everyone knows it, that how everyone's got a story about the fucking police stuff.
You should say conveniently committed suicide.
Yeah, well, the police, the police officer who was up under investigation, he finally committed suicide. Oh, yes, conveniently, yeah,
Right.
for him. Because they didn't want him ratting on nobody else.
Right.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, but anyway, so people just see that, and that type of job, you gotta have a lot of compassion, and really you can't be corrupt, because you can literally just take somebody's car away from them forever. Or whatever, you can ruin their lives.
Yeah, what I see a big part of the problem is it seems like they look at everybody like, the cops look at everybody like kind of like a criminal, like they're walking.
Well, it's us against them mentality.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
That seems to be a big problem on their end too.
Yeah, like we have police officers that work the church. Because now every church in America's got to have a cop in it because of what happened in Charleston, South Carolina, where that dumbass went and shot up the black church.
Yeah.
So there's cops in every fucking church now, and people are paying for it. The church members,
right,
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it sucks though, because you have that level of responsibility from. It's not like you're chasing the bad guy who kidnapped a girl, right? You know what I'm saying? No, you're dealing with someone who just don't want to fulfill their responsibility to their family, or either not pay their bills, and you got to kick them out their house. That's not fun. It's not like there's nothing fun, to be honest, about being a police officer. It's all just doom or gloom, bro.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but it tells you about our society, how fucked up we are.
What were we just saying about someone get kicked out of their house or something?
Yeah, like when a cop has to serve papers to evict people, and there was I think a guy who killed 2 cops that was just serving eviction papers. It was like 2 weeks ago. In Michigan. Yeah. And matter of fact, the police chief broke down, started crying.
Okay, I know.
Live on the interview.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that should be the way cops respond a lot, honestly. I remember what you were saying about churches have to hire cops to be security. So your church, and that your church has a cop as security, right? That's what you said?
No. We actually pay for police to be there, like one cop.
Well, yeah.
I mean, however they work it.
Yeah.
And we do have church members. I think we got a church member that works for the FBI. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we have it like strategically where men sit certain ways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we have a cop that works the door in fucking uniform. Yeah.
And you think that the cop is scaring away people? I mean, does it make you feel safer?
I would honestly tell you this. There was a conversation that I got to be not a part of, but I was around.
Yeah.
Where one lady in church was worried about her ex-husband because he's had a history of domestic violence, or there was a restraining order,
yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. So this is how it works. Once that happens, and let's say that church member contacts the pastor, let's keep it simple. Typically, it's like women start talking. But anyway, then we contact the authorities because we got the cop working there. So the cop does the background check on the guy, know what the guy looking like in this case he shows the fuck up.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other members know who the fuck he is already.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like who actually have a position. So let me tell you something.
So the cop there is basically he's just guarding the front door.
I would say this: it's a deterrent.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. He's there to if somebody's got, they're gonna think twice when they see a cop at the front door.
Yeah. It's kind of like a speed bump. Like if I want to go 40 over this speed bump, no, I don't want to because it's gonna hurt. You know, like I'm gonna hit a bump and I'm gonna deal with it. You know, but that's how it works. Like to be honest, in a lot of churches, like I went to this black church here in Missouri.
How many people you think are packing in your church?
I would probably say 15, 20 dudes.
Yeah, see, it's hard to believe anything's gonna go down, you know. But it is good to have somebody at the front door. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, but it's also about what I told you about the guy who has domestic violence issues. Them motherfuckers don't care. You know, they're typically suicide bombers. Like,
right.
Everything in California, right? I don't know if you've seen it, but where the boyfriend came over when the girlfriend was putting the kids in the car, she had a protective order again, so he came over and literally slit her throat and cut her head off.
Yeah.
One of the kids.
Yeah.
Like 2 o'clock in the evening.
No, I didn't see that.
So those type
Thank
of
goodness.
guys, they're already like suicide bombers, bro.
No, I hear you. They're pretty much, you know, they got no heart left.
Well, it's like they've never had booty before and they're whipped. That's what I was at. You know, I'm like, if you want to go, cause it's anyway. I ain't gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
To that poor lady, you know, she left with 2 kids.
Yeah.
But but if you think about it, that's really who you gotta watch out for, and that's who kill more cops than anybody is those type of men that domestic violence is. You know.
Who kills what? More women?
Who kills more cops than anybody? I think domestic violence.
Yeah, I think I heard that somewhere too.
Yeah. Which is horrible because I know cops that got in the military and other cops, and that's like, dude, like if you've been to a house a couple of times, you don't ever know whenever that guy's finally gonna pop off.
Oh yeah.
You already know he's a gun owner, right? Cause there's no red flag law. But yeah.
Oh, huh.
So yeah, now you see how politically we put the cops in danger, you know, or whatever. I don't know, bro. But at the end of the day,
the cops. Okay. When the cops sign up for the job, they're not thinking, okay, I'm not going to be in danger. You know, it's not. Nobody's forcing them to do it. So when you say we're putting them in danger, they're putting themselves in danger.
Yeah, but you got, but again, though, what I'm talking about is how everyone plays the game politically, right? But meaning, the cops did, but at the same time, if the police can say, hey, listen, we've been to this guy's house 10 times, and every time he's pointing a gun at us, and his wife won't press charges, right? So we need to take his guns away. That's what I'm saying. Those type of situations. All right?
If somebody points a gun at the cops, can't they arrest them? I mean, aren't they like?
Well, yeah, but again, though, that's a misdemeanor. It's not a felony.
Yeah. Well, no, I hear you. Just having somebody who's violent like that running around with a gun seems pretty fucked up.
But anyway, so it is, the gun shit. But hey, on the September 11th thing, I had one of my buddies that I met out here a while back. He's retired military, so I had him and his girlfriend over, and I cooked tomahawk steak for him.
Yeah.
You know, Yeah, well, I mean, we don't for the whole family, like, just him and her and my kids, Ty, so make some banging ass wings.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like the good life, man.
Oh, it was nice, yeah. And it was really starting to cool down. It was nice. So we're getting ready for the remodeling of the house.
Awesome.
Yep. Yeah. And that's pretty much it, man.
Were you going to say something about September 11th? It sounded like you were going there.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, I was just telling you that he came over and me and him discussed it, But one thing that I want your listeners to know, I had a commander by the last name God. She was female, and her husband was a major. She was a captain, and when her command was over, both of them got stationed in the Pentagon. At the same time, I was getting stationed in Korea, and her husband was a major, and he died in the Pentagon attack.
That's horrible, dude.
So like knowing somebody, and when I retired at Fort Lee, Virginia, and she was a full-bird colonel, God, and
from 9/11 in the Pentagon.
She stayed in the Army. She stayed in the Army, bro. She could have took the money and ran. She stayed in. There's stories that you don't know about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But she stayed in. She made full-bird colonel.
Wow.
And I don't know what she retired as. If she may still be in, I don't know. But she was my brigade commander whenever I retired. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's awesome, dude. That's really. I mean, it's got to be tough for a woman to make it in the military. It takes a lot of commitment. From what either way, but for a woman, it's probably a lot harder, I would guess.
Yeah, but you know what, man? She was always a runner. Like she was one of them fit ladies. You know what I'm saying? And but her husband got sent to the Pentagon. That was her duty station, and they had a son. So he's a young man now.
So okay,
so he was a baby when his father died.
Right. So have you heard the story that Cheney was in the Pentagon when that happened? Do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you knew that?
I never heard that.
Oh, okay.
Nah. Did that something that leaked or?
There was a Secretary of Transportation, Leon Mineta. No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I know. I don't know about Secretary of Transportation. Panetta, I think he's Secretary of Defense or something like that.
Let me look.
You're talking about Panetta. Anyway, I could be wrong.
He was in the Pentagon, in the basement, supposedly, with Dick Cheney. He testified.
Oh, they was in the White House Pentagon,
I think. I don't know what that is.
Okay, I'm listening. Sorry for cutting y'all.
But he said he was in the Pentagon with Dick Cheney, and he said that every like couple minutes a soldier would come in and he would say, the plane is 50 miles out. The plane is 30 miles out. He said when it got to 10 miles out, he said, does the order still stand? This is Secretary, I don't think it was of Defense, I think it was Secretary of Transportation, Mineta, and he testified those exact words in a congressional hearing. So, and then, I mean, you can't believe that, these untrained pilots, flew directly into the front,
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's just a lot of things that don't make sense and seem pretty impossible. So, I would really, it's horrible that your friend died, and it's even more horrible that possibly the people, there was people in the Pentagon at the time that were behind the whole thing,
I would probably have to say that because I've looked into that, to those conspiracies or theories or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot that don't make sense to me personally.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, is everything was easier when that happened. You know, like the protective posture of America wasn't anything like it is today or the day after 9/11. All right, Mom. So I could see how people could hijack a plane, but as far as their personal training and how well they were trained to drive, to be able to, because I just flew back from California, and when you're exiting a plane, the door's open and the pilot is getting his bag, and you see all the buttons and everything like that in the plane, man. Like, think about it. There's no way that me going to learn how to fly a Cessna is anything like that. Like whatever these guys did in Florida, these hijackers, right?
Yeah, right.
So I obviously they were highly trained. My thing would be who funded them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously who funded them. It was an oligarch of a Muslim country, and you can and believe me, probably multiple of them. But when they're sitting on 40% of the planet Earth's oil reserves, there's not a lot you can do, because we tried that shit in Iraq, it didn't work out. It didn't work out in Afghanistan. So either you go through, kill all of them, or you just deal with the motherfuckers, bro. At the end of the day. You know, I don't think we're ever going to get that fucking answer just because of just because of the natural resources in that region of planet Earth. I mean, you just can't go through and kill I don't know how many millions of people and expect everything still to work out. Someone's going to have to move there and make everything happen, so the rest of the world can keep moving. And I just think it's one of those economic decisions. If it was just one country or bombers, or I don't understand why any American would, or how many Americans it would take to pull that off without, you know what I'm saying? So I just don't understand why we would do it to ourselves.
Really?
When we could be
yes, you do. You know exactly.
No,
why.
I mean, I don't. I'm just not a big believer in the main conspiracy of the one world government. You cannot listen.
All right, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about September 11th, and that these people could have not flown those planes the way that they said they could, and that there was other. And I understand that the part of the Pentagon that the plane hit was under currently going through remodeling. Do you know that? Was that true? Yeah, so that seems like a pretty big coincidence in order to minimize fucking casualties too, right? Not that I'm making light of your friend. I'm just saying.
Oh, no, I'm not. Yeah, but they hit also that portion. My understanding was the financial portion of the building too, and I honestly do. Like I said, I just know someone that I knew somebody who her husband died.
And there was cameras everywhere. You know there's cameras everywhere. And all we get is this still picture, this one still picture of whatever it is that we can't see.
I know. It's like a few clicks and it goes by because of, the CBS, whatever type of cameras. Yeah, there's obviously more footage.
Obviously.
I don't know why they wouldn't release it.
I don't know either. Okay. I could never imagine why.
I would like to know, in order for something like that to happen, how many people would it take to pull it off?
That's a really good question.
Because that's a hard pill to swallow.
I agree.
If you're that deeply connected, where you have the skill base, the knowledge to make these things happen. Because these just can't be by your Uncle Larry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. You have to.
This is way deeper than Uncle Larry. These are professionals. However they did it, if they motivated these young men to come to this country to do that and train them, and all them men can keep it quiet, and not tell nobody. Right? Not make a video and say, yeah, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. No, for all that to happen so secretly, and no one ever really still figure out, how they communicated, who funded them. and there's people who was in America who funded them. But there's something that is, there's got to be a bigger picture for that to after we figured out what happened, there's got to be a fucking bigger picture why we've never really blamed whoever funded it. If we're going to blame a guy in a cave from a rich family,
right,
that pretty much says, I want to live in sandals up in the mountains of Afghanistan and live like a poor man or whatever, I find that hard to believe. Okay? So either they was caught, they was caught committed, meaning a very few people did it, and they was just caught committed, and they pulled it off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 1 in a million, they would pull it off, or either something else. But I have no idea. And whatever it was, whatever the agenda was for it to happen, didn't work. Does that make sense?
What do you mean it didn't work? It worked beautifully.
Well, the Middle East is so distable now.
Yeah.
Them people leaving their homeland, going to Europe,
yeah,
and they're going to demographically change that older population up there,
mm-hmm.
right? And start having their first generation of Germans and French and British, whatever. Okay, so like, who's going to backfill all the people who left the Middle East? You know what I'm saying? Like, it absolutely doesn't make any fucking sense. So, whatever we supposed to did, if it was a setup, it didn't work out. No one in the Middle East bought it.
It seemed to work out pretty well for Dick Cheney and most of the other people in Congress.
Well, that's anybody who invests money that made money on anything. You know, that's capitalism. You know, so then if it's capitalism, then it's not about global domination or a fucking set of religion or rules. It's about making money. You know, but I don't know why you want to go destroy and kill people when why would you want to destroy labor forces? You know what I'm saying?
Why do you bomb fucking Baghdad into rubble when there's no real threat? You tell me.
Well, I was there for that. You want to destroy all levels of government so you can stop the flow of communication so everyone just look around at each other. That's why you do that.
Okay, so there was no women and children in all those buildings that got reduced to...
Dude, listen, I've seen them all there, bro. It's casualties, yeah. It's war.
Yeah, I get that it's war. I get that.
Yeah.
But it's all based on lies. I mean, we all saw the lies that came out again and again.
Yeah.
And they murdered all these little children and women and act like it's fine. Act like Saddam was not a threat to anyone.
Mm-hmm. But Mom, listen. Again, we made that investment, and it cost us a lot. And shit didn't work out, right?
Not Dick Cheney. It didn't cost him anything. It made him fucking billions.
Well then, I don't see Congress passing any laws or bills about people owning stocks and shit when their politicians are coming through the financial sector or blah, 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 blah. So that should tell you that it's a racket. Everyone's in it, and all of their children are going to make money off of who the fuck their parents were. It's always like that, bro.
Right. War is a racket. Who wrote that? War is a racket.
But so is capitalism. You know, there's a reason why the jobs left the Rust Belt. Because everybody was getting older and the kids didn't want to work in the factories. Because they would afford to send their kids to college. So they knew in 30 years they ain't got to work for it. They fucking went to China or Mexico. You know, it's just, at the end of the day, it is what it is, and there's smart people who make these decisions. Whether I agree with them or disagree, you know. Because I do things that I didn't want to do. I just follow orders.
Right. But you don't think that smart...
I know it's hard to believe it, I'm being honest.
No, I know you follow orders, and I know you're being honest. And I'm not saying anything about that, about you. I'm just saying I just am trying to understand your point of view from everything that you've seen, and I get it that you've made a commitment, and that was to to the country and to the government, and I just I did not make that commitment. And when I see people like Dick Cheney in charge and understand the evil that has gone down since that day, and that was another contested election, and that there just happened to be NORAD running drills at that time that were similar to the hijackings, if not almost identical, and
Well, maybe this, Mark. Maybe they had intelligence. Maybe they had intelligence on us for one of those notes. See, that's not what's really discussed or talked about, right? Maybe they had a spy on the inside and said, listen, this is the best time to attack the government. President is going to be in Florida. The vice president is going to be in D.C. No, think about it. There's a NORAD operation. This is the perfect no-look path. Let's do it, right?
Right, absolutely. And you don't think that those people could have been in the White House? Is that what you're saying? That's not possible.
No, I don't think that's possible. I would say that those people who knew about it, meaning the spies, were probably spies for fucking years. Okay?
Well, they would have had to been, for sure.
Yeah, to be able to get all that knowledge, to put up an intelligence portfolio / what's going to go on that day, and give it to the enemy in a timely manner for them to send people to the country, to fucking, and get some razor blades and not and try to fucking plan. I don't know, bro, but I'm just telling you. Like, maybe we got compromised on our intelligence. I had no idea, but obviously we kind of kept it tight since then. But you see how hard it is just to find one bad dude in the desert. It takes a while, because they don't use our means of communication and blah, 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 blah. We got to break those inner circles so we can find them, to be a morale killer. But yeah, I have no idea. I mean, it sucks. But
well, no, it sounds like you have an idea. I mean, there's an idea at least that you're going with, and I get that. I mean, you should have. Yeah,
but Mark, listen, let's just say they said that it was this person who was in charge of 9/11, who funded it, made the calls, made it happen, right? Let's just say that person was in charge of country, whatever. Do you think our version of capitalism is going to stop doing business with that country? No. So nothing's going to change.
Which you're talking about Saudi Arabia.
Exactly. So nothing's going to change.
Nothing. What do you mean nothing's? Oh, you mean as far as economically, nothing's going to change when it comes to oil. Because oil is, what makes the world run.
No, because we got to get outside the box and stop thinking about us. We have to think about the farmer in Zimbabwe who has a tractor, who needs oil, petroleum, to operate his tractor. Okay, if we go and just bomb the shit out of these countries with all this oil in it, the infrastructure, we got to go right back in there and rebuild it. The shit didn't work out in Iraq. So therefore, we just want to deal with these motherfuckers. That's it. Because the regime change didn't work. It didn't work in Libya either.
I think
American people don't have the stomach for it.
I think it worked exactly the way they wanted in Libya and Iraq, dude. I mean, I know that you have perspective from the ground, and I respect that a lot. It just seems like to me that, like you're saying, it's about making money. And if it's about making money, then, making a war in Iraq, which obviously, was all based on lies, and then it made all these people rich then it makes sense that they would, and they would have had to had 9/11 in order to make that happen.
I look at it different.
Yeah.
I look at it like, if I want your girlfriend and I know some dirt on you, I'm going to make sure someone tells her that you're cheating on her.
Oh, well.
Because it's, at the end of the day, it's all about the economy. Meaning I want something you got. And I'm going to do whatever I can to get it the most cheapest and affordable way. So the most affordable way would be for me to talk to your girlfriend and just take her away. She would just break up with you and me and her be together forever, right? Or either I can bump into you, I can beat you up, right? And I can please her by kicking your ass and she'll leave you because you're a fucking pussy. And I'm the hero, or I'm the man, and I can take her that way. Or either I'll bribe her with money, and shower her with jewelry, and and jewelry. I do it that way. Or either I go underground and I set you up, make sure you get pulled over, and the guy puts cocaine in your pocket and you go to jail for 10 years, and I take care of it. You know what I'm saying? There's different levels to it, because when it comes to money and natural resources, some people want to pretend like they're in charge and not understand how the real world works, and they want to sit on shit. But the really, really smart people, and I go back to the men in the smoky room who make these decisions, they understand what it takes for roughly 8+ billion people to be able to get along and function. Everyone's got to get something. Someone just can't sit on shit or hoard it or whatever. And I think overall that's a lot of the problem. So now we're going to deal with Saudi Arabia for the next 50 years because of that new young prince they got. They just started this whole golf shit with Trump. So Trump took golf away from all the rich white folks. And it's 9/11. You know what I'm saying? But yet they already go fight for him and overthrow the government. He gave golf to the Arabs, who apparently was funded 9/11.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I probably am giving these assholes way too much credit to think that they could pull off a plan like this. It just seems like, too much fucked up shit. Hey, Brandon, I got another caller. It's really good to hear from you, man. I hope I'll talk to you soon.
Man.
Bye.
Hi.
Hello, caller.
Hey, Mike, how are you? How are you?
I'm
appreciating your program so far.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Just was listening to the last call, although I was having a hard time hearing Brandon because of the volume. So I heard a lot of it, though. I watched a good movie last week that's relevant to this discussion. It was called Executive Action with Burt Lancaster, and it was from 1973. And what it was doing was, the movie was a documentary-style feature film talking about the assassination of John Kennedy. And it basically just puts forward the hypothesis that, 5 or 6 really wealthy people sat down in a house and planned the assassination of John Kennedy. And then the movie shows exactly how they were able to do it with former CIA officers and training bases that were secret, and using the public mood, all of these things as a way to shape public opinion. And in that movie, Burt Lancaster says, we have to have a patsy. In the first part of the movie, he shows the assassination. He goes, every major president who's been assassinated in the United States, it's always been blamed on a lone gunman, a patsy. So then they find a patsy, Lee Harvey Oswald, and that becomes the story, the patsy. And it's important because the assassination of John F. Kennedy is really a marker in our history where it's clear the people do no longer have control over their government.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If the CIA can kill a president in broad daylight and the people don't revolt and they just follow orders and believe what they're told on the media, it basically means that the powers that be can do whatever they want to do. It sets a precedent.
Yeah, I think I think that there's this strange thing that happens, like I said, after 9/11, after the worst terrorist attack on U.S. shores happened, these people who allowed it on their watch to happen, approval rating shot through the roof, you know? And it's just, it doesn't make any sense at all. These guys just fucked up like worse than anybody could have imagined. Now we're going to give them the best approval rating that they ever could have had. It's
he was reelected. 9/11 happened on his watch, and he was reelected. George Bush.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he was reelected because I don't think he was elected in the first place. And in the second place, yeah, and then the second election, you know, some shit went down there that, you know, voters in Ohio, right after the first George Bush election, John Kerry, who ran against him in the second election, promised that he would make sure every vote counted. There was voters standing in line in Ohio in the freezing rain in November for like 8 hours, and before the polls had closed there, John Kerry said, and it was like 0.1% was the difference in the vote at that point. John Kerry said, I concede. And George Bush and John Kerry did their little secret skull and bones fucking handshake, and it was a done deal. So I don't think George Bush was ever elected first or second time.
I would agree with you. But I mean, in the minds of the public, he was elected, or at least 50% of the people voted for him in light of him being responsible for 9/11, being president when 9/11 happened. But
then there was the Diebold machines and all that fucking bullshit. Like, that's when they got these new voting machines after the hanging Chad in Florida, which put George Bush in the White House, and it just happened to be his brother that was the governor at Florida. All of a sudden, where the election outcome met, you know, that's what the presidency, you know, hung from a thread by. It's all these coincidences, you know, when you throw 9/11 in there, it's just impossible to believe. It's just too much. Go ahead.
Also, the coincidence, my phone reception is really bad. Like, I'm getting echoes, and earlier today, my computer, I was losing web pages. I'm getting all kinds of electronic interference right now talking to you, just so you know. But what I was going to say was there were, a lot of coincidences, like the president's brother, his other brother, was in charge of security for the buildings in New York City for the World Trade Center. His brother was charged by the private company to be in charge of security of the building, like one of George Bush's brothers. That is a coincidence, I think. The other coincidence is a day before 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld said there were $2.3 trillion missing from the Defense Department that had been stolen, and they couldn't account for this money. And 9/11 happened the very next day. We never talked about the missing $2.3 trillion again, ever again. And the offices that were hit by the cruise missile in the Pentagon, those offices were the place where all of the records were stored for where they were doing the investigation for the $2.3 trillion missing from the Pentagon. That's just a coincidence. Also, even though they claim that jet fuel was responsible for the fire that destroyed the structural integrity of the building, caused the building to collapse, right? Mm-hmm. The very next day, they found a passport from one of the Saudi Arabian passengers laying in the rubble beneath the building.
Oh God!
And this is after they supposedly claimed that it was jet fuel that destroyed the building, meaning anything would have been incinerated like immediately. But they found this passport.
I really hate laughing about this, but it's like so fucking fucked up. It's like it's easier to laugh than to just cry. You know, I guess that's what it is.
And I guess so there have been a lot of discussions, but there's a recent discussion at Off Guardian. It's a website called Off Guardian. Today That's a repost from one of their earlier articles. It talks about how the only way this building could have been taken down is with charges, with actual explosives placed at specific places in the building that would cause the building to fall into its own footprint, right? All three buildings fell into their own footprint, including a building that wasn't even hit by a fucking airplane.
Right.
And that building fell into its footprint. And in these explosives...
And that building held numerous government offices. Go ahead.
Yeah, like security, like, CIA stuff.
Right.
CIA headquarters in New York, like national security headquarters in New York. We're in that World Trade Center 7. And that building went down, and they, the argument is, well, something from the building fell onto it, and that fucked up the structural integrity of the building, and then fires contributed to it. But in fact, the way that the building went down, it didn't go to its left, it didn't go to its right, it fell directly into itself, and it wasn't hit by an airplane. These buildings, these are the only three buildings, steel buildings ever, to fall into their footprint without explosives. And all three of them did it within, a half a day. What the fuck? It's all really suspicious. And I think I gotta go back to John Kennedy, and even with the COVID thing that's going on, I think this is they knew in 1963 they could get away with it, and they got away with it. They changed what the newspaper reporters said. They killed people who were witnesses. They put a fake commission up to look at the evidence, and then rubber stamped the theory that a lone gunman killed him. They fucking suppressed journalists who wrote about John Kennedy's assassination. They did the exact. They invented the word conspiracy theory in 1967 to call people who criticized John Kennedy's assassination conspiracy theorists. The Central Intelligence Agency did that in a memo. This is what we're going to call these people. And they used those same techniques with 9/11. Every single technique they used to discredit engineers, to discredit political scientists, to discredit investigative journalists.
To quiet. It wasn't just discredit. It was to quiet, because you lost all credibility if you were to talk about these things. But even more that right after the buildings came down, the first week or so, there were journalists that were saying something's wrong here. And to those studios were sent envelopes with anthrax in them, which killed numerous people, including mail persons, letter carriers, and they were also sent to different members of Congress that were also asking questions. So, and then that's when the press officially died, because it was military grade anthrax that killed a bunch of people. Really fucked up.
I also meant in the context of censorship on YouTube, censorship on Facebook, censorship on social media platforms, which were relatively new, in 2003, 2005, after 9/11. And nevertheless, I participated on commenting forums for 10 years. And you could never discuss 9/11 or post links to 9/11 in comment forums, or your comment would just be deleted. 15 years ago, you weren't allowed to have these conversations in the public realm. So this is exactly what they did with COVID-19 as well. And with Russiagate, you're not allowed to talk about these subjects because you're a conspiracy theorist.
As far as talking about 9/11 in the press, also, I was working with one of Time Magazine's top 10 most important news blogs on the internet, as named by Time Magazine, whose name will remain unknown, because I don't want to promote their website. But they would tell me I would post videos. Back in the day, I was posting 20, 30 videos a day. I'd post 5, 10 videos on their website, and I was told repeatedly to stop posting videos about 9/11 and about Israel. Not connected, but separate videos, in which, because I was told, it just brings out the crazies. So
the crazies.
So
yeah, see, the fact of it, this idea of like the good Germans, right? These are the people that just like do what they're told and also believe what they're told as well, and they don't want to question anything. And they're kind of part of a totalitarian system, which I believe the United States is, and I believe it has been for about 75 years. So I don't believe there's a lot of freedom of thought in this country. But one way you can test like whether a person is like bought the bullshit is like if you read an article that they've written, if they mention 9/11 or if they don't. All of the journalists and commentators who don't mention 9/11 know that they shouldn't talk about this subject, so they're towing the official line by avoiding the subject, and you know that you got to be suspicious of whatever they write. That's been a golden rule of mine. And like Noam Chomsky is like considered one of the famous intellectuals in the world, an American, and he's been asked many times directly about this question, and he just says it's not important. America would have done what America was going to do. Who cares? Yeah. I have more important things to think about than this. He said that, like all those things.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just like, wow. Well, that means anything that you say forward, I have to take with a grain of salt, and I have to reevaluate everything you've ever said before, because I know that you are willing to fucking lie in front of the camera, or at least not be honest about it and look at the evidence. So you're lying. And I have to look at it that way. So that's sad, but I mean, at least it's being honest. People need to be honest about what fucking happened. Their own government, intelligence agencies, actors, private actors did something and caused this country to go to war using propaganda, and we killed millions of people. All right, maybe 3,000 people died in New York, but at the end of the day, we killed fucking millions of people, and we used this as our causa belli, and therefore, this is a question that we should continually ask, and we know for a fact that like Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, we know, and Donald Trump, we know that all of them, because of their positions of power, are aware of what actually happened. Whether they did it or not, they know what fucking happened, and they have not spoken. That people in power are continuing to like keep this amongst themselves. I'm positive of that. Yes, affirmative.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe that's what the raid at Mar-a-Lago was about, was that Trump took some 9/11 documents or something, and they're just freaking out. What's that?
He's a sleazy fucker.
Oh, yeah.
He would do something like that.
Well, that's not sleazy. I mean, that's like, I got the shit on you motherfuckers.
Well, I know. It's whistleblowing if he releases it to the public and we're going to read it. It's just sleazy if he uses it as blackmail against other sleazy.
There you go. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I meant about it.
I gotta...
They know.
Go ahead.
Yeah?
Go ahead.
I said they know is what I meant. Is they know, and I even think many of the American public, I think many people in the United States know as well. I don't think most people are suspicious about the events of 9/11. And there's another hypothetical, maybe they blew up the building. I think they obviously blew up the building, but they could have had a second plan B going in effect, where they did take these Saudis or whatever, Islamic extremists, and they did have them fly airplanes, and 2 airplanes did fly into that building, but that isn't what took the buildings down, Mike.
Right, yeah. It appears that that would be quite impossible from what we understand about the terrorists, the so-called terrorists. Yeah. I also understand that these planes that they use, the 747s, were all had the ability to be remote controlled, remote flown, whatever it is that they call it. I think there's
autopilot or something.
Yeah, some kind. It was a remote piloting, which means someone could have taken, someone who understands the device, the plane, could have taken control of it and actually did the flying, instead of believing somehow that untrained people did incredibly accurate.
Well, if you were going to go to so so much trouble to plan such an event, you would want to be damn sure that the plane did not miss the building
Yeah,
at all.
I think that's for sure. Yeah, you're right.
You'd want to be right on point there. So, missing money from the Pentagon, an excuse to go to war, a way to destabilize an entire region for profits for the military for the next 20 years. Oil, we stole their oil on top of it. The energy companies made a fortune, the military companies made a fortune. I mean, there's a lot of people who had motive to have, some input into what happened.
Yeah, and not ask questions. Doesn't matter. We're making money. Doesn't matter. We're making money. That's what matters.
I think at the end of the day, in America, that is what matters.
Well, yeah, you can hear Brandon say that a lot when he talks about war and such. He knows that it's about making money. So.
Yeah, at other people's expense, though. And,
well, yeah.
And it's making money even at the expense of murder.
Yeah, right. I was talking about women and children and, Baghdad being turned to rubble. I mean, that makes me sick, dude. They talk about how horrible the Russians are. Fucking Baghdad was turned to rubble, nothing left. And it was filled with women and children at the time that it happened.
No. And just to be honest,
all because of 9/11. Go ahead.
Afghanistan as well, right? I mean, if in fact the buildings were exploded and the Islamic terrorists were assisted by the FBI and they moved around the government, around the country or whatnot, right? If all of that is true, then the government of Afghanistan had very little to do with what actually happened in New York.
Yeah.
Therefore, to have their country completely destroyed and sent back to the Stone Age for 20 years,
yeah,
and have the poorest country in the world be bombed by one of the richest countries in the world. There you go. That's huge crime.
Yeah.
That's huge war crimes, like crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
You want to talk about who should be put on trial for crimes against humanity? It's the leadership of the American government, the people, and that includes the military and the politicians.
Yeah.
They made these decisions, and they should be held accountable, and they never will be held accountable, and we all know it.
Yeah, and the real problem is that someday the American people may be held accountable for the crimes of this government, and that's horrible thought, man. This government's so evil, and if the American people have to suffer, retribution for what we've done, I can't think about how ugly that will be.
Yeah, and in fact, the way that we treat other countries around the world means that it would be legit payback. For example, the sanctions that we're imposing on Russia and the sanctions we're imposing on Iran and Venezuela, they actually are killing people. We're killing people by strangling their economy, not letting them have access to things that they need in the world, and that inevitably hurts people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know what they would do to us, Mike, that would be a recompense or which would be equal to what we deserve, other than a nuclear war. And weirdly enough, our leaders push other nations so close to that option that it becomes, I know you think it's unrealistic that any nation would destroy itself or its leadership. And I understand that. But at the same time, it seems our leadership pushes this as close as it can. The war in Ukraine is what the fuck do you expect Russia to do when they start bombing Moscow? What are they going to do? What do you think they're going to do?
You talk about a nuclear exchange and such, and I don't think that that's a real option. But you know what I find fascinating is the idea of these individual assassination drones, right? And China having 100 million of them in some kind of container ship off the coast of and they just fly up to you and fucking bap right in your forehead and you die. I love that. Of course, that's going to cost too much money. It's just so much easier to use a virus. Go ahead.
That sounds like it would be a good movie if Tim Burton made it. You know, like Mars attacks, but drone attacks.
There you go.
The container ship would be like off L.A., and then all of a sudden, all of these famous producers and actors would look out their windows and they'd see like a floating bumblebee hovering right near their head. And then they would be like, is that what I think it is? And then on the TV screen, there'd be like a CNN update. There were drones in LA. And then the guy would look back at the window and scream, oh my God, and pull the shade down.
Or his head would explode. One or the other.
Or his head would explode. Yeah, I'd like to see some more good satire from Tim Burton. He was pretty funny. Yeah, drones.
I like Mars Invades, but I don't care for most of the rest of his stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of it's okay. You didn't like Edward Scissorhands?
No.
You didn't like The Nightmare Before Christmas?
No. It's okay. It's okay, but it's just okay.
You know, this is like the first Halloween that Americans are going to celebrate, basically in like 2 years. I can't believe you don't like It's a Nightmare Before Christmas. It's such a great movie.
Nah, it's okay. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of his work at all, but I do like Mars Invades.
All right. All right, I'll let you go. Anyway, it's 9/11. It's a somber day, but I don't think things are going to change. And I think that COVID just like knocked everything up a fucking notch. Oh, the other thing that September 11th gave us was the Patriot Act, right? So we also lost all of our fucking civil liberties at the same time we went to war. And they consolidated their power, created the Department of Homeland Security, and increased their surveillance of all U.S. citizens because of September 11th. Direct result.
And then the Patriot Act morphed into the National Defense Authorization Act, National Defense NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. So
right.
and it allows the government to spy on every single person because it defines every single individual, including your children, as potential domestic threats. And in a time of terror war, there's no such thing as potential. So you are a domestic terrorist threat to the government. That's how they look at you. So you know.
Yeah, and when you get to COVID-19 and these mandates and the Q codes, we get to a whole nother level where it's like a digital identity that will give you access or deny you access to basic services. So if you match that with like your political opinions, you make a bad post on Twitter or Facebook or something, you take your Q code to buy something, the next day you might not be able to buy food. You know, we're kind of getting even closer and closer to that, where even a common person isn't going to be allowed to have opinions that offend the state at all. Yeah,
It seems like
no soup for you.
It seems like, yeah, that's getting much closer.
Anyway, here's to AI. Cheers, and long live King Charles III.
Off with their heads. All right, it's good to hear from you, Chris. Talk to you later.
Yeah, peace.
And that's our buddy Chris from Olympia. I have a video that I will be playing now. It is a discussion about the events of September 11th. If you remember September 11th, I have a video here about them closing the 9/11 Memorial Museum at Ground Zero. But I'm not going to play that now. But when I say remember, never forget, and then you realize that they're closing the Memorial 9/11 Museum at Ground Zero, those things don't seem to blend or correspond in my brain, and I don't think I'm the only one. So I'm not going to play that video for you now, though. I'm going to play a different video because I can, and I'll be back. I'm going to go heat up my tea, and we'll have a bong hit. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please remember, it's always better when you're here. That's the fact, Jack. Clip number 8. Be right back. Telephone number's up there.
Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have.
Americans are marking 21 years since the September 11th terror attacks. On this day, nearly 3,000 people died when al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked passenger planes and struck New York, the Pentagon, and Pennsylvania. Our Fabio Shapiro and Alex Schloss have more in this report.
No one who was alive then will ever forget the morning of September 11, 2001. Between 8 and 9 a.m., 19 al-Qaeda terrorists in the U.S. hijacked 4 civilian planes and flew 3 of them straight into the Twin Towers in New York City and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. The 4th plane was taken down by its passengers, who fought the hijackers and prevented an even greater tragedy. 9/11, as it's become known, claimed almost 3,000 lives and left around 25,000 injured. It was the deadliest attack ever on American soil.
Guys, still around. As much as, I'm part of 9/11, it's part of me. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think of something that day. Whether it's a person, whether it's a noise, whether it's a plane flying low.
The deliberate and deadly attacks which were carried out yesterday against our country were more than acts of terror. They were acts of war.
The goal of the terrorists was to pressure the American government to change its Middle East policy. It achieved the opposite effect. America launched the war on terror, which it fought in Afghanistan, Iraq, Pakistan, Syria, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen. This war turned into a vicious cycle, lasting decades even after achieving its goals. U.S. troop withdrawal left destruction and power vacuums, most notably in Afghanistan, where the U.S. pullout opened the way for the Taliban to seize power yet again, bringing the war of terror to a full circle. But even when America was at its lowest point, there was still hope.
We're going to rebuild. We're not only going to rebuild, we're going to come out of this stronger than we were before.
In late 2014, a new World Trade Center was inaugurated. It reached its full capacity earlier this year. And 21 years after the fateful, horrific day, Americans and the world still remember.
Still with the story, President Joe Biden sharing this message with the American people on this day, saying the country will never forget. Let's take a listen.
So many heroes were made here. So many of your loved ones were those heroes. Began almost immediately with civilians and service members leaping to action as the walls collapsed and the roof began to crumble. They raced into the breach between the 4th and 5th corridors. We'll never forget. We'll never give up. I hope we'll remember that in the midst of these dark days, we dug deep, we cared for each other, and we came together.
Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have. Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have. Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have. Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have. Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately.
All right, my little ninjas, I'm about to have a puff. If you'd like to join me in a puff, I'm about to do that. And I have a few more videos, but it's a call-in show, and if I'm not going to get any calls, I'm going to go ahead and play the videos because I have a ride to the park, which means I can take my Boo Bear out, and the smoke has cleared out. It's much better today. Even earlier in the day was better, but by now it's going to be way better. So, as I was saying, yesterday the weather lady said Seattle has the worst air quality in the world. Fluffy bunny. All right. So, as I was saying, it's call-in show. If you want to call, the number's up there on the screen. 805-669-6397. 805 Mox News. I have a ride to the parky. So I am trying to get through this, although I would very much like to hear from callers, because it's your opinions that really matter to me. It really matter to the show, because if we can have a discussion, then we can come to a much better, the more input we get, from the more sources we get, I think the better understanding it is that we can have. Hello, caller.
Hey there, how you doing?
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, look, I've been listening to the show since the very start, and I'm starting to think you guys don't believe this, that Arabs armed with box cutters defeated the United States air defense systems into the building.
It's above my pay grade, really, but there seems to be a lot of strange coincidences about that day, don't you know?
So you're a coincidence theorist, is what it turns out. Yeah. So you believe in all the coincidences?
I don't know about all the coincidences, but there's
surely a guy in a cave in Afghanistan could defeat the $1 trillion air defense system. He obviously was able to send all our intercept aircraft up to Canada so that they could fly around as airplanes unmolested for an hour and a half or whatever, yeah? I mean, that obviously, yeah. I don't see why everyone is thinking that, our government is behind it all. It just doesn't seem, I just don't know what to think, It's like Dick Cheney and Halliburton.
Right.
You're trying to figure out they're making profit? Come on. It's just silly. It shouldn't have the whole Iraq thing, I don't know. You guys are talking like World War III started and we just started invading countries and overthrowing governments. And after 9/11, it was used to yeah. Oh no.
the government's listening. The government's listening. You're in trouble.
That's it, man. Oh no. I better let you go down. You go take your dog for a walk and do your bong hit.
Yeah, you got it. Talk to you later. Thanks for calling.
Bye.
That was fun. We need more callers like that. That guy is exactly what we're talking about. How many of these things is possible? It's really strange. One of the things that I recognize from these videos is that they keep bringing up when they talk about the details of the day and where the world went after that, like in the demoralized police thing, right? It wasn't just about the fact that the police on 9/11, the firefighters on 9/11 got sick and nobody believed in the government, made them fight for years and years and years while a lot of them died. It's not just that. It's that it's all these things together. It's the government, because the reason they did it was not that they didn't want to pay these firefighters or these police officers, is that they didn't want people to realize what it was that they were dying from. They didn't want people to go, the government told us it was safe at 9/11 as ground zero, and clearly it wasn't. So what else are they lying about? And then you look at this thing with, the demoralized police, right? It's not just a matter of the police being demoralized. There's just so much more to it than that. right? And as far as the police being demoralized, I don't know. It's a horrible job. I can't imagine having. It's like Brandon was saying, you know, why would anybody take this job where everybody thinks you're a bad guy? I'm going to play a video and see if I can get my thoughts together here. And who wants to be next caller? But again, what I'm seeing is like with the demoralized video with the cops, is that what they're talking about is all the events, everything that they wanted to happen, right? The people being divided, all these things you'll see on the next video. What I'm saying is that they just kind of, when you think that the government did this and why would the government do it, it's like they do a laundry list of exactly why the government would do it. So, which I found fascinating. So I'm going to play this video for you now, and we will go from there. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's always better when you're here. Don't forget. Okay, this one's about firefighters after 9/11. I believe it's a fire department one.
Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have.
America today is on bended knee in prayer for the people whose lives were lost here, for the workers who work here, for the families who mourn. This nation stands with the good people of New York City and New Jersey and Connecticut as we mourn the loss of thousands of our citizens. I can hear you. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
So many iconic moments after those tragic attacks that brought down two of the mightiest towers on the planet, and so many heroes, but one particularly stands out. I'm honored to have with us today Tim Brown, a former FDNY first responder. He's a survivor of the 2001 terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center. He was the first responder, get this, to the 1993 terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, and a veteran of the New York Urban Search and Rescue Task Force team that responded to the 1995 terrorist attack in Oklahoma. This man is the real deal and a real hero. Of course, he never calls himself that, but he's kind enough to join us. Tim, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Neil, good morning, good afternoon. It's great to be with you again. We say the heroes from all those incidents are the first responders who paid with their lives.
And what's amazing, Tim, looking back at it, it might seem even cliche, so I apologize for it sounding cliche, just the bravery of your men and women and so many others, the Port Authority workers themselves, who went into those towers, many of them knowing very well the odds were small that they were ever going to come out, but it was all about rescuing people. Take us back to that.
So I was in the North Tower after the first plane hit, and I saw my good friend, firefighter Chris Blackwell, who I'd worked with in Rescue 3 in the Bronx Harlem Fire Department for about 7 years. And I saw him in the lobby of the North Tower. And I actually kissed him on the lips as I would for my own blood brother because I loved him that much. And he said to me, "Timmy, this is really bad." And I said, "I know, Chris, be careful, I love you." And he said, "I love you," back to me. But you know what, Neil? He did what all 343 New York City firefighters, 37 Port Authority police officers, 23 NYPD police officers, and 8 EMT paramedics. They all did what Chris did. After he said to me, "This is really bad to me," he turned around and he went in the stairwell and he went up to save the lives of people he did not know. He fulfilled the oath he took when he became a New York City firefighter, just as police officers do, just as EMT paramedics do, and just as our volunteer military do. You promise when you take the oath that you will give your life for your neighbor, even if you don't know them, that you will give your life for freedom. Chris turned around and he went in that stairwell and he fulfilled the oath he had taken. Neil, I call it the greatest love.
That is an understatement, and you embodied that, and a lot of your men and women at the time did as well. Tim, I'm always amazed, too, after the first tower fell, and a lot of your men and women who would go into the second tower, knowing that that was a distinct possibility, but they went in, and many of them perishing the exact same way. When you look back at that, and it's been 21 years now, we've had a whole generation of Americans who weren't even born then, including my son, who was born the next day. What do you tell them?
The most important thing now is, because I've learned that 20 years plus is history. So now we are looking back at history, which means the young people who are beginning their careers, they're getting out of college, they don't have memories of 9/11, 2001. We've developed programs at the National September 11th Museum. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation just announced the 9/11 Institute for Education of our K through 12. And that's where my focus is going to move now. My voice won't be around forever. And it's really important that we teach our young about what happened, about the whole story, the whole truth, about the heroes of 9/11, the tragedy and the horrors of 9/11, and also who did it and why they did it. We need to tell all those things to our young folks.
Yeah, I tell my kids, Tim, the same thing, that if we forget, it's bound to happen again. That's my biggest
Absolutely.
fear.
Yes, sir.
Look who's calling someone sir. It's back at you in spades. Tim Brown, the former FDNY first responder. Tim, thanks for inspiring and just helping us make sense of this crazy day. You and all the brave
Thanks a lot, Neil. Nice to talk with you.
comrades alive and no longer with us.
Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have. Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have.
All right. One of the things that's really important to understand is that all these people that we're seeing are millionaires, and at least the vast majority of them, and they're millionaires primarily because of 9/11. Multi-millionaires primarily because of 9/11. Cavuto had a pretty solid job. I'm sure he's gotten quite a few large raises. I'm sure that his income has quadrupled at least since 2001, probably a lot more than that, 10 times. That may have something to do with inflation and the value of the dollar. That being said, these firefighters, these police people, these congressmen that they show on these shows interviewing about September 11th, all of them have made money off of it. Pretty much. My guess is 90% of them made money. Probably a good percentage of that 90% made a lot of money. So, that firefighter guy, I bet you he made a lot of fucking money. I'm going to play another video. You know why? Because there's no one calling. The telephone number is 805-669-6397. If you want to call, it's there. Otherwise, you don't have to feel obligated anyway. Honestly, I'm really looking forward to getting my Boo Bear out, because it's a much nicer day today than it was yesterday. So, in fact, we couldn't go out yesterday. It was so bad. Yesterday, last night, the weather lady said that the air quality in Seattle was the worst of any city in the world. Yesterday. Today it's better. All right, I'm going to play a video, and this is one of the videos from today where the people are at the 9/11 memorial, and they're they're doing this ringing of the bell and stuff. But this is before it starts, and this video shows it shows a little bit of the crowd, but it shows Kamala Harris, it shows Chuck Schumer, it shows Mike Bloomberg, it shows a few other politicos and people you know, that you might recognize. And what's really peculiar to me is that they all kind of have these smiles. They all seem to be smiling an awful lot considering the event that they're attending. And it would be my guess that Kamala Harris, if not all of them, chuckled or laughed at least once or twice. You know how she likes to do that. So I'm going to play this video, and then we'll see if we have any callers, and then we'll go from there. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have.
Enough of them. So anyways, as always saying, you know, it's a call-in show. If you want to call, the number's up there on the screen, 805-669-6397, 805 Mox News. I still want to play this 9/11 Museum at Ground Zero closing video because I think it's really important. And even if we end the show, because if I don't have any phone callers, I'm going to go ahead and go walk my Boo Bear. So, because that's probably more important than not talking with y'all about. I mean, if we're not going to have a conversation, I don't want to just sit here and spew my voice. I really don't. All right, I'm going to play a video because we don't have any callers, and that video will be about the 9/11 Museum because I really like that video, although Chris seems to think it was boring. Actually, yeah, I'm going to play that video. It's only 2 minutes long, and because it's important, right? Never forget 9/11. Never forget. And they're closing the 9/11 Memorial Museum at Ground Zero. Never forget.
Gentlemen, I want you both to take a swing at this. I only got about 45 seconds for each of you. Manhattan's 9/11 Tribute Museum permanently closing. They were saying it was due to the China virus, but also they're saying a severe lack of interest in terms of visitor traffic. If you would take the first stab at this, Brian, when you hear lack of interest in 9/11, what goes through your mind?
Yeah, this is a travesty. It's an absolute travesty. As Jim will tell you, the Tribute Museum was a treasure in New York and, a hallowed place. It was run by the families, the victims of the tragedy. It had items and things, personal items of the people that died in the towers. And the city turned its back on them. So people couldn't come in for a while. That doesn't excuse this museum closing down. And I think the blame lies right in the city. And there's apathy, there's apathy out there with people. They forget.
See, and yeah, how do we beat that? Jim, how do we beat that? The worst terrorist attack on our soil. How do we stop our nation from forgetting?
Absolutely, Chris. Yes, sir. I totally understand that. If they're going to close a door, you're closing a piece of history. Whether we want to admit it or not admit it, it is a piece of American history. And that is the theme of Brian's book and my book, is we have to keep that memory alive. We don't know when something tragedy like this or catastrophic is going to happen again. But by writing the two books, we need to keep that open. And when we shut something, it might not ever be open again. It might be permanently closed forever. We need to keep these books open and the museums open and not turn a blind eye, because it happened. And we need to thank the firefighters and the first responders and keep that alive.
Amen. And also learn the lessons from that day. Jim Serger and Brian McDonald. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your remembrances. After the break, it's...
Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have. Well, nobody's gotten to the bottom of 9/11, unfortunately, and they should have.
All right, so they said it's a travesty. They said that, they said it's this horrible thing, right? That people, and this, it's really sad that people don't have the interest in the events of 9/11. And I don't think that it's not that they don't have interest in the events of 9/11. I think that they don't have interest in being lied to anymore about the events of 9/11. So that's why a tribute, a memorial, it said tribute on there. I don't see how a tribute is the word to use, but those people are fucked in the head. 9/11 Memorial Museum closing, Ground Zero closing permanently. Never forget. All right, I'm going to go walk my Boo Bear. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We do this every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, which means we'll be back on Tuesday, same Mox time, same Mox channel. And until then, remember that the events of 9/11 prove that no matter which side you vote for on a two-headed snake, it still shits the same turd.
No matter which mouth you feed on a two-headed snake, it still shits the same turd. But lucky for you, you have Mox News. More than 10 years. More than 60,000 videos. Mox News has been filtering the nonsense and illuminating the bullshit from your mainstream media. Turn off your TV and turn on to Mox News. For over a decade, documenting the socio-political events that have etched and carved the pathways that define today's modern mess, Mox News has been providing clarity while faithfully bringing you today's relevant stories, 100% commercial-free and subscription-free. And just like Lady Liberty vows to remain free. But at this time, we're asking you for your help, your patronage, and your support to keep the lights on and the videos rolling. For less than 17 cents per day, you can become a basic subscriber, knowing that your donation is truly making a difference that will help continue bringing the news stories that make a difference in your life. Turn on, tune in, and drop a couple dimes today by clicking the link below or visiting moxnews.com and show your support at any level. From a single one-time donation or dedicated monthly subscriber, do it now in less than 2 minutes. All donations are safe, securely processed, and verified using PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover Card. As always, we're sure you'll find something of interest each and every day. This holiday season, give the gift of Mox. moxnews.com.